Hey, stand tall with Dave Brown. Yeah, I got my Traveling Wilburys here. Tom Petty, George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, Jeff Green. One of the greatest all-star bands to ever come down the pipe. I love listening to these guys. The Traveling Wilburys. Inside Out. And you're downside up. Yeah, you're upside right. Love the Traveling Wilburys. Music's a big part of my life. I listen to music all the time. We're here today, though. Gotta get a little serious today on our podcast. We're live streaming out to everybody. I'm focused on education on this one. And so what I'd like everybody to see today is that, we really have a lot going on in education. Right now, you gotta know that President Trump and Elon Musk, Doge, everybody that's connected with the Trump White House and all of their people filling cabinet positions, they're looking at wasteful money. You can look no farther than the National Education Association. I have some numbers for you. You might find these interesting. Now, spending 20 years in education in the schools and then spending another 4 years on the school board, 2 years as chair. My wife's a 34-year teacher. We have over 70 years coaching experience at the high school level. So we've been around it. We know what's going on. We've been on budget committees. We've been on site councils. We've been on all kinds of stuff. And I got to tell you that I'm a public education guy. But right now, public education is not doing their job. Let me throw this number at you and just, see how you're kind of feeling about this. They have right now, this is the what's going on, a budget that is just unbelievable at the federal level. I mean, it is so much money. It's unbelievable, what they're really, putting out there as a product for how much money they take in and what the budget is from the feds. When you look at the National Education Association, it was started in Jimmy Carter era. What did we do before that? We're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on a federal place to tell our state people what to do. And so every state's different. Oregon at this time, where I live, is ranked 47th in the country on one poll as far as what our kids are learning. 47th. Now we're supposed to be 35th in the country on some other things. So we're somewhere between mid 30s to high 40s. And we've only got 50 states. Remember that. Canada hasn't jumped over yet. So when you look at some of the big problems what's facing public education right now is they've totally bought into the entire culture that shifted during COVID. But really, let's go back farther. You got to go way back to the time about 1915, 1918, when the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia started. The communists changed from having a czar to going total communism with their leaders. And Lenin really wanted communism to be the utopia state for the entire world. It started back then. And even back then, they were planting seeds through people, and people would come over to the United States to get educated in our colleges. And it just slowly kept coming in until you get to the Cold War, and the Russians had a very good plan. Said, we don't have to go bomb them to death. We're not going to win that war. But what we will do is we'll infiltrate from the inside out. And that's exactly what they did. And so by the time we got to the 60s, our colleges were swept up in a movement of socialism, and which is a softer word for communism. And that's what they wanted. They came after our colleges, they got them, and now our colleges are a disaster. Kids go off to college being a Christian, they're told not to believe in God. They go off to colleges to get a good education, and they're told about all the ways to hate America. Our colleges are hurting. What's crazy about it is we all keep sending our kids off to college, and I will tell you that I hear story after story after story about people are going, it's so frustrating to go there because they don't feel like the education's that good, and then they feel like they're getting preached at all the time from a socialistic, communistic background. What happened in about 2019, 2020, when COVID came into play, it was fair game to come after the public schools. And boy, did they. I've been part of that whole thing. Newburgh, Oregon, Loudoun County, in Virginia. We were kind of the two West Coast, East Coast epicenters for everything that was going on. And I'll tell you what, it's been a crazy time. I've had death threats. I've had people stop by, knock on the door, and just start throwing out terrible comments at the grocery store. People come to school board meetings and just scream for the 3 minutes they had to come give their talk in front of a school board. Public education right now is broke because they've lost their focus. It's as simple as that. It could be fixed as simple as that too. We battled what came into play was Black Lives Matter was the first thing that hit. George Floyd died and all heck broke loose. But this was all a plan. This was all set up. People like George Soros and all that big money came in, and it's what they wanted. They want to dismantle the United States from the inside out. So make no mistake, if you're listening to this, this isn't some conspiracy theory. Go check it all out. It's right there. They want to dismantle the United States from the inside out because why? That's not what the communists want. They don't want the United States of America because we're free. We're independent. We get to have freedoms. We get to have freedom of speech until COVID hit. And then what happened? All those freedoms went away. And they tested the market, and we failed big time. They yanked our kids out of school for almost a year and a half, devastating an entire generation of kids that just lost out on people contact, teaching, and everything else. And why? Because they said COVID was going to kill everybody. Well, no, COVID not only did not kill everybody, COVID was containable, and we had a lot of options that we didn't take. But since then, public education has really struggled. In my home state of Oregon, we are ranked 47th in the country. We're not doing a good job, and yet the unions come along and they keep fighting for people who do terrible things in our schools, and they fight for them to not get fired. And if it's so bad that they have to kind of leave, there has to be a settlement from the school district to give them, and nothing goes on their record. And why? Because that's what they do. They're not going to admit that their teachers are doing anything wrong. Right now, the curriculum that's being taught to our kids is either good or bad. So is it the curriculum's fault or is it the educator's fault? I think it's both. But I mainly would say it's staff. Why? And I know a lot of the teachers in my home district, and I feel like they've lost their focus. Instead of teaching all day long from the first bell to the last bell, we've gotten off on DEI and everything else that comes along with it. And so that's what comes into play with the parents right now. You want to get involved as a parent, you have to get involved. You have to do something about it. And the time to say that this is somebody else's problem, I didn't even have kids when I ran for the school board. My kids were long gone from all this. And all I see at school boards is your woke, crazy, nut job people who are so far down the socialistic path. It's crazy. And so what I would like to say to everybody now is you have to get involved. You have to stand up and say something. Look what happened with boys playing girls sports. Riley Gaines was the spear, the tip of the spear that brought that along. We resigned our coaching positions at Canby, Oregon, and our videos went viral worldwide. We got phone calls from countries, not just states, all over the United States. And we heard all the horrible stories about what girls were going through their mothers and their grandmothers, their guardians, about what happened there. And now, because we do have a president who has some common sense, he signed into law that boys can't play girls sports and they can't be in the locker rooms. But where are you, the parents, on this thing? Why aren't you standing up? Why aren't you sitting back going, we hear all the time, boy, somebody tries to hurt my kid, man, I'm going to be Mama Bear, Papa Bear. Well, be Mama Bear, Papa Bear right now. Go to a school board meeting and say, no way this is happening. And that's what has to happen. We have to get to the point where we're all actively engaged in this. In Oregon, Washington, California, and a few other, Colorado, the very liberal states, this is going to be a slow burn until these laws get changed. And why? Because we have super liberal governors. You have Tina Kotek in Oregon. You have Inslee or whatever in Washington, and you got the dipstick down in California. You got Newsom, who doesn't know, which way to part his hair, let alone how to run a state. And everything he does fights common sense. Everything he does fights common sense. And so it's not about education. It's about what he wants in his agenda. And so right now I'm talking to you from a straight up, point on education in Oregon right now. What we have to have is we have to have everybody start going to school board meetings. If we want to save public education, we've got to tell the school board, the superintendent, the administrators, and then the teachers, no more. No more are we putting up with this. Just go to school and teach my kid math, arithmetic, writing, English skills. Do you know that most kids are coming out of school right now and they don't even know how to really write cursive anymore? They don't really know how to operate a lot of common sense things that we should be teaching our schools. Do we? No. Some of our classes are great. When I was there, we had a robotics class that was fabulous. I really felt like our music department was great. I felt like our drama department was great. There's a few teachers sprinkled in, some of the different groups who were doing a fantastic job, but most have lost their focus. And if a teacher in the public schools right now says something, I'm telling you what, they're going to get ridiculed right out the door. So they don't say anything. They put their head down and they stay right in their lane. They stay right in their room and they don't say anything. And if a teacher tells you anything different, they're lying to you. And then you have your nut job teachers. We have them in Newburgh. And I would love to throw out names. You should never have your child in their classes, ever, ever, ever. If your child goes into some of these people's classes and said they're a believer in Jesus, ridiculed. If you tell them you believe in Trump, ridiculed. They don't have the freedom to say that stuff. It's the kids' school. It's not the teacher's school. It's a teacher's job to teach what we want as public education to do their job. 47th in the country, really? And you think they're doing their job? They're not doing their job. They're activists. They're agenda-based adults in a setting that's just throwing money at them. Well, the money's drying up. And here's a problem that public schools are really going to have. They're losing students because their results aren't very good. They're losing students because of lack of trust of what they're doing. The gender stuff just keeps rolling down the road. One step at a time, people are losing more and more trust in the public schools. Not to mention the fact there's no discipline. They're not disciplining the kids because they'll say, well, it hurts their feelings. It bothers them. It upsets them. And boy, if they're non-white, they get all the preferential treatments because we're just not going to upset those kids. So the DEI has been a complete failure. It doesn't matter if a kid's brown, black, or white. It doesn't matter if a kid is rich or poor. It doesn't matter if a kid's a boy or girl. They all deserve our very best efforts. And you want to see all of our so-called minorities have a better shot, then just teach the whole school really, really well with a really high culture and set the bar high. Set the bar high. We still do it for the most part in athletics. Why aren't we doing it in the mainstream school? And the answer is because in Oregon, just like your state, you'll have somebody called the Oregon Department of Education. You'll have the OSAA, and they all have to sign off on boys playing and girls sports going to a track meet, devastating hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of girls in Oregon, as well as their parents and their guardians. Devastated them, but they sign off on it. Why? Because it buys in to the whole national agenda, from socialism to communism to your national teachers unions. And let's go to national teachers unions. What is their budget in a year? By the way, they've lost almost 400,000 people out of their unions in the last 5 years. And all the credit, for the most part, goes to the Freedom Foundation, who are working tirelessly to explain to teachers that $1,000 to $1,200 a month you pay in membership dues is mostly not going for anything you thought it was. I paid 20 years. My wife paid almost 33 years before she dropped out to the Freedom Foundation. And you know what they do? They take a lot of that money, over 80% gets shipped off to national causes, Planned Parenthood, abortion rights. It gets pushed into getting Democratic people elected. Why is that okay? Why are the unions collecting all that money and not doing more for teachers in the form of education, even in buying them a sweatshirt? I mean, you're taking $1,200 a year from them. I think in our area, it's about $1,100 a year that you pay in. In 20 years, nobody called me. Nobody said anything that here's a benefit for you. Here's a T-shirt. Here's a pen. We're going to give you a pen, Dave Brown. And nope, never got that. Never got a candy bar. Never got anything in 20 years. And so all my dues just went out to where they wanted to ship it to. Um, they shouldn't be putting that money into politics, but the if you follow the money, like right now, a lot of people who are far left are super upset with Doge. I'm super excited about Doge. You know why? Because they're finding wasteful money. Yet at the same time, on the other hand, we're talking about we might lose Social Security by 2032, 2040. There's all those rumors that go out there. They've been going on for decades that Social Security will be insolvent. Social Security needs to be helped out. Donald Trump will get this done, by the way. Him and J.D. Vance, with the help of his entire cabinet, I believe will once and for all, in this generation, brings Social Security back to where it should be. But we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars that are being saved by Doge. Why are we upset about that? I'm not. But why are people upset about that? That money could be just as easily put back into Social Security and get that funded back up to where it should be. Get it to the levels where not only people like me, but people like you, if you're in your 50s and your 40s, that Social Security will be there. And it should be. It's what our country decided to do a long time ago. And I believe in the Social Security. By the way, in Australia, you know how they do Social Security? You don't pay the money directly to the government. No. It's required that you take that money. Let's just say it's a couple $1,000s a year, and it goes into a retirement fund. And you're given options. You're given options about where you want to put that money, and you can't take it out until you retire. They have a set age like we do. It's not the same. So that money is put into an investment account. That will be your retirement account at some point. And so there is no Social Security like government blanket. These will be invested into private funds, and you have different options. And there is obviously the safe, the more risky options, kind of like we do with more of our investments. They basically are putting money in the stock market and investments. That's how Australia does it, and it works really well. I think we're too far down the road to back away from Social Security. We just need to have something like Doge come in and get more money to them, save from all the craziness that's out there that's being spent. And that Social Security will stay solvent if we do it the right way. And I think we're too far down the road to get rid of that. But back to education, we keep funding education and we keep getting poor results. And as the adults in this world, we need to step back and say, no. If you go into any private business, we had the opportunity to go to the Nike employee store the other day, and love Nike shoes, great shoes. I got a pair of Cortezes from the 70s, one of the original Nike shoes. So excited. Haven't had a pair of those since the 70s. And we had about 6 people deal with us while we were at the store. One was a little bit older. The rest of them were a little bit younger. I'd say early 20s. The customer service there was through the roof. It was fantastic. It was, I told one of the managers on the way, I said, man, I'll tell you what, whoever's training your staff, great job. Absolutely fantastic job. If Phil Knight hears this from Nike or any of the Nike big shots, I'm telling you what, they were great. You should go down there and say, atta boy, atta girl, good job. They were fantastic. Young people can get the job done. Young people deserve better. They deserve a better public education. They deserve more rigorous classes. They deserve to have the bar set up higher. They deserve to know that we did the very best we can educate them. And now I'm going to switch gears to all you young people out there. Demand from your teachers at the middle school, high school level that they do better. That you're tired of sitting around watching movies throughout the day. That you're tired of sitting around with a low bar, trying to teach everybody to the middle. That's what they do, right? They're teaching everybody to the middle because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. They don't want to make it too hard for this kid. And they're labeling kids. They say, well, the black kid or the brown kid doesn't have the same opportunity, so we're gonna bounce it all out so everybody's the same. That's not the real world, and that's not what any kid wants. I've got friends that are brown, black, white, Asian, younger, older, men, women. It doesn't matter. What really matters is working hard. Get a work ethic in there and go. Public education, you need to work harder. You need to teach working harder. You need to be working harder, and you need to get that thing done and throw out the DEI and all the BS that you guys put out there about equity, inclusion, diversity. None of that works. DEI is horrible. And where did that come from? It came from your progressive, liberal, socialistic, communistic principles that they want to tear this country down on. And what better way to do it than tear our youth down? Our kids are not getting the education they deserve. And that is just not right. So what's the answer? We all step up. We all go to school board meetings. We all start writing emails to the Oregon Department of Education in Salem, Oregon. We all start going to our principals and start saying no. Go get 5 or 10 or 15 of your friends and go down there and demand no. Where are all you parents at when you sit back and you bitch and complain about what's going on with sports and your kid's not getting enough playing time? You're more than willing to go talk to the coach and complain about that. Why aren't you willing to go to your principal or the school, the superintendent, and say something to these people? But then let's flip this around. You know who has no power? School boards don't really have any power. They rubber stamp a few things. Your principals really don't have any power. They can make it better in that school for sure. But you know what they're doing? They're doing exactly what they have to do from the Oregon Department of Education or the Idaho Department of Education or the Texas Department of Education. They take their marching orders and they do exactly what they're told. So the ODE, the Oregon Department of Education, is totally at fault. Totally at fault. Why are boys and girls sports? Because the ODE says it's okay. And so they tell the OSAA, who governs sports, they're in Wilsonville, Oregon. They tell them that this is how it's going to go. They tell them that you will let boys go in the locker rooms. You will let boys win state championships at the track meet. And you're not going to do anything about it because we're telling you that's what's up. And that's wrong. So if the adults would all stand up, we could get this thing done in a couple of days. Just stand up and say no, 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 no. You know who pays the salaries of the Oregon Department of Education, which is a big budget? You do. I do. Our taxes do. They answer to us if we would just step up and make them answer to us. So in public education right now, there's just so many things that they're focused on that's very wrong. The National Teachers Union, by the way, just so you know, has a $529.5 million budget. $374 million comes in dues from people like my wife and I when we were working there, and the current teachers and the ed assistants that work in your public schools. Classified is what they're called if they're a non-teacher. 374 comes in dues. 135.3 billion. You know how that comes in? The stock market, stocks and bonds that they invest all that money into, so they have a continual income stream coming back at the national union offices. And what they demand and what they do and where they send that money is so wrong. Look at the salaries of the people that are running this. Baumgartner, the lady that's in charge of the whole teachers union, is crazy. Look her up. Look her up. Look at her on YouTube and watch how she talks. This lady is nuts. And yet she's in charge of a $529.5 million agency. Insane. And so as we move through the last parts of my thing today, public schools are losing kids to charter schools, homeschooling, private schools. You have Christian and Catholic private schools. And you got kids just dropping out because why go if it's just not even what they're looking for? You got kids dropping out and saying, I'll just go my own route. I'll get a job and I'll figure this stuff out. And, you know, I'll go on and make my own path. And that's because for one reason only. The public schools are not making this an engaging learning environment because they've lost their focus. A little bit farther, if we move through this kind of stuff, the ODE, one of their main statements, they foster equity and excellence for every learner through collaboration with educators. I'm telling you what, collaboration to them means we're just going to do the same BS over and over and over. And equity, throw the word out. You've just ruined that word. Inclusion. Inclusion means that every single kid, no matter what their skill level, is going to be included in the mainstream classrooms. And these are kids with special needs. These are kids that are struggling. And I've worked with these kids. I understand that it's really difficult. Public education was never really meant to handle so many different things that the world of the public now is thrown into the public school mix, but they have to do it. I would much rather see us come up with a better blueprint for the kids and their parents out there that that are in the segment where they're going to school. They could be Down syndrome, they could be special needs, it could be severe special needs, but they usually have one assistant that's with them all the time. This is super expensive. I get, if the parents out there, they want the best for their child. To me, after working so long in education, what I would like to see is like in our county of Yamhill County, we have two bigger towns, Newburgh where I live and McMinnville, the county seat. And I think we both could put together schools down there, and then all the other small towns like Dayton, Sheridan, Willamina, Yamhill, Carlton, could all feed in to those two towns with kids with special needs. Then you could set up programs and special things that would maximize these kids' skill levels and sets. There'd be a little transportation that would have to happen, but you could put all the needed things in that school that would just enhance their learning chance to just get a little bit better. And so by the time they do get to 18, a lot of the transition kids can go from 18 to 22. There's programs out there for that, but at some point they're going to be done, and I think we have to give them the most tools in the bag we can possibly give them, the most love we can possibly give them. And I would say honestly that once a week I would have those kids get on a bus and do a field trip to a different school, and kids would have a set child, like a mentor that they would spend a couple hours with those kids, so they could feel like they were maybe part of the high school, the middle school, or the grade school. And I think it would be awesome for all of our kids to have to be a mentor and to help to learn how to serve. And that's how I would do it. And then I think the parents would feel like their kids are getting the very best we could offer in public school. Public schools were never meant to do all the things they're doing. So in fairness, the budgets have gotten bloated. Another thing, look up is the ESDs. Look up the Willamette ESD in Salem, Oregon. Look at what their budget is. On my next podcast, I'll tell you what their budget is, and I'll tell you what salaries are down there. And I'm telling you what, they serve 22 school districts, I believe. Newburgh is one of those. They're out of Salem, Oregon. And it's a big building full of a bunch of people, and a lot of people down there make lots of money. Do we need something like the ESD? I think we could have something much, 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 much smaller, a little bit of legal help and things like that. But I don't think we need quite as extensive as it is. And it's a big ticket item. And there's people down there making lots of money. Their director down there makes $250,000 a year. Oh boy, that's awesome. Oh yeah, there's benefits. So it's probably $300,000 a year. Okay, never sees kids, never sees a principal unless they go into a school and just say hi. We have a lot of people doing a lot of jobs that really aren't in front of kids teaching. We need to back this thing all the way up and get very basic with our public education. So my challenge to everybody out there right now in education through Stand Tall, if you want to stand tall, get involved. You don't have to complain and whine and yell like a lot of the crazy woke people do, but you need to know what's going on. The best way to do that is go to a school board meeting and check these people out. You go to Newburgh right now on that school board, and I'm not being bitter because I'm not on anymore. I got voted out after being on for 4 years. I know that the left and the crazies came after us with both barrels blasting, and we had national people coming after us. We had all kinds of just absolutely crazy people. This current school board, though, is making all kinds of decisions that the public should really know about. It will come out at some point. So you people on the Newburgh School Board right now, it will come out. Your actions will come out. And the way you've treated certain people, it will come out at some point. The truth always does come out. And even though Newburgh has been, Loudoun County, Virginia, have been messed up, we were kind of the epicenters on the West Coast and East Coast. The truth will come out. What happened in Newburgh, by the way, is happening all over our state now. Go ask somebody in St. Helens. Go ask somebody in Silverton, Oregon. Go ask somebody down in Salem, Oregon, or Beaverton, Oregon. You go ask people in all these little different places, and you'll find out. So that's all we got on today in Stand Tall. Education, kind of a rough talk today, but if we want to save public education, we all have to do our part. and we all have to get in there and just demand better. And there's a lot of teachers out there that want to do better. They just are protecting their jobs. They put their head down, stay in their classroom, and they just do their job. And the people that are teaching right now, most of them understand that. The real crazy ones out there, the real woke ones that like we have in our school district, I'm hoping from a national pressure on down that it's going to get better. I really do think that the National Education Department is going to be hopefully dismantled or curtailed a great deal. And I'll tell you what, in the last 5 years, the Biden money that came through in grants and aids and COVID money was insane. And what the public schools did with that money is they took our money and wasted a ton of it. And what are our results? 47th in the country. So anytime I'm sitting there talking about somebody from Oregon and they want to argue with me about, you're just being too critical, 47th in the country. You argue with me on that one. Where's your results? Teachers unions. Where's your results? What are you going to do? What are you going to, show me some games. Show me what you got. 47th in the country. Train wreck. People are leaving the public school, your school, because you're not getting it done and parents are fed up with it. But the biggest people that are fed up with it is the kids. They want discipline in the schools. They want more rigor in their academics. They want leadership. They want ASB officers back. They want dances without 3 girls over in the corner humping on each other. They the same thing. They have 3 boys in the other corner doing the same thing. They're sick and tired of all this terrible, low moral stuff going on. Kids are tired of it. They want a good, healthy school, and they want adults to lead it and take care of them and make it challenging. What they don't want is a watered-down version of what some woke, leftist, socialistic, communist union person thinks what an education should be. Focus on education. Get it back to that, it'll be okay. Let's stand tall with Dave Brown. Peace.